Oh, come here. Come here. So there is a skirt that I have been wanting to make for well over a year. And I finally had the occasion. I found the materials to actually make it, and it is inspired by a very specific design and designer, Bonnie Cashin. Now, Bonnie Cashin is someone whose name is kind of being revived right now by an amazing individual named Stephanie Lake, and Bonnie Cashin was an incredibly prominent, popular, huge name in fashion until her name started falling into obscurity after probably the 1980s. So I first was introduced to Bonnie Cashin's work through this book, American Ingenuity, which was an exhibition on American sportswear, and I was incredibly struck when I saw this Bonnie Cashin design for a skirt with a little kiss clasp purse pocket. And that just stuck in my head, and I've been absolutely obsessed with this idea. And so when I discovered that Stephanie Lake had actually written a book all about Bonnie Cashin, she was actually very close with the designer herself, I absolutely had to have the book. So I bought the book, and then Dressed Podcast did an episode on Bonnie Cashin, so there was a whole period where I was learning all about Bonnie Cashin and her work, and I just wanted to share a little bit about that with you today. So Bonnie Cashin was never really clear about when she was born. She often told newspapers that it was either 1910 or 1915, but it turns out it was 1908-ish is what Stephanie Lake says in the book, and she never really liked people to know what her actual age was. She was incredibly creative, and her foray into designing was actually when she went to an audition to become a showgirl. She was really short, really small, and during the audition, instead of getting up to do all the kicks and the dances, she looked at them and said, actually I can't do that, but I can draw, and gave her sketchbook to the judges of the audition, and they hired her on the spot as a costume designer. So her beginning was actually in the 1920s designing costumes at a theater. And just to show you that Bonnie Cashin was always incredibly ahead of her time, look at some of these sketches from the 1920s for her costumes. Look at these. Can you believe this is from the 1920s? She sketched this in the early 1920s. Absolutely incredible. So as a really broad overview, she worked in designing costumes and then moved into the ready-to-wear space. She had a conversation with Dorothy Shaver, who was the head of Lord & Taylor department store in New York City and a very prominent figure in the fashion world at the time, and told Dorothy Shaver that she wanted to do everything. She wanted to make sportswear and evening wear and play clothes, and Dorothy Shaver told her, actually, look, that's not going to work. You're going to need to specialize down, because that's what everybody did. And Cashin was just very certain that that was not for her. She wasn't going to be able to be true to herself and design everything that she wanted to design. So she goes on to start working in ready-to-wear clothing. This was at the onset of World War II, and for those of you who are into fashion history, you'll know that obviously during World War II, when France was occupied, France and Paris was the center of fashion, so America started to kind of bolster its own identity in fashion and started to actually promote some American designers, and Cashin really benefited from that. And she was also working in Hollywood films at the time and was one of the first costume designers to say, hey, why are we costuming all of these secretaries, everyday women in very glamorous clothing just because that's what the actresses want to wear? And started designing a lot more appropriate costuming for her films. As her name grew in popularity, she had a very different approach to her label as many other designers. She actually contracted out work to various manufacturers rather than setting up her own specialized manufacturing facility, because she didn't have the money at the time. So this was a very new way of doing things, a very common way of doing it now. In the, maybe this was the mid to late 40s, this was pretty revolutionary. Her whole ethos was making clothes for women, not for occasion or occasion dressing for time of day, level of formality. So her clothing that she made really transcended the occasion dressing that was the norm in the early part of the 20th century. She has this amazing quote of saying that a good modern wardrobe is 80% timeless and 20% frosting, and when she talks about that 20% frosting, she's really talking about accessories and things like that. She says that she feels like, surprisingly, the items in your wardrobe that are going to transcend time are actually the luxury, special items that you purchase rather than your everyday staples, because those will come and go in fashion. She was very much a pioneer in a lot of things that we just take for granted in our fashion vocabulary today. So things like day to night, the woman on the go. Layering was a concept that she kind of coined in 1950, and the use of different textures, and the thing I'm going to specifically talk about, which is hardware and closures. So Bonnie Cashin was known for taking hardware and closures that were not typically used for clothing and using them on coats and bags and accessories and just everything. So one in particular, obviously, like the little coin purse kiss clasp that we saw on the skirt. One that she became probably most well known for is the little turn latch. So I'll show you a picture of that. So this one, for example, that sort of latch clasp was one of her signatures. Things like these hooks. This one has latches, giant pockets, ties. I'm getting too excited. Just dropping my phone and throwing stuff. So her uses of color and texture as well. You can see the different types of closures on these. How cottagecore is that? Basically, any of the items in this book would not look a bit out of place on a runway or on the street today. Ah, the skirt, which I love. So it's held up to take up some of the length with these hooks. Things like oversized buckles. So having had this idea for the skirt in my head, and I've sketched out jackets and all these things with these little kiss clasp pockets, I finally had an occasion to make myself some clothes to get ready for a little temporary part-time job that I'm taking, and it's becoming summer here, so I wanted a little bit more of summer clothing. Here's a bit about the skirt that I made and am wearing today. Hope you enjoy. So the little purse kiss clasp, that is a design that I'm going to be kind of trialing out because it is something I would absolutely love to make and sell. However, obviously I won't be able to wash the skirt with the clasp on it, so it's something you would need to wear with a slip underneath. Skirt that I have been planning to create for a very long time. It is going to be made from this gorgeous cotton sateen bedsheet. So it's kind of hard to tell, but it has its alternating stripes with a kind of sateen shiny stripe and then a matte stripe. It's a bit of a heavier weight, so I'm going to make it with a pocket on the front, and the pocket is going to be made with this. So the opening of the pocket is actually going to be the kiss clasp of this purse, which I got at an antique store, and it is based on a design by Bonnie Cashin, who was a prominent designer in the 50s and 60s, and she used a lot of hardware and interesting clasps in her designs. So this is a skirt designed by Bonnie Cashin, and it has a pocket like this with the little kiss clasp. And in this pocket, the kiss clasp is pointing down, so you would lift it up to open it, and I'm gonna try to create the pocket in such a way where the kiss clasp is upright, and then you just open it, so it would be sewn onto the fabric of the skirt just with the pocket in front. So we're gonna see how that goes. I've never sewn one of these kiss clasp purses before. So here I've already cut the front and back of the skirt for the kiss closure pocket. I cut it out of this gorgeous fabric. So I just made the pattern. It's really simple from a skirt block pattern. The back piece, which is rolled up over there, has a little bit of extra room here which gets gathered at the center back to give it a little more volume, almost like a little bustly kind of look. So I'm going to sew the skirt together. I'm just about to put in a zipper, and then got to work out how to get this thing on. So you see the holes here, I think, oh come on, focus. Okay, so you see the holes. I think I'm going to be able to stitch that onto the skirt on one side, and then make a little pattern piece of fabric to sew onto the other side, and then sew that fabric by hand on top of the skirt. So, gonna see. Alright, I am back. I have just finished the skirt. I am very happy. The gathering sits a bit puffy now, but I'll press it down. I love that extra little bit of volume in the back. Oh, love it. Haven't put there will be a little button here. There's a side zipper there. I also love how flat it is in the front, because putting on the pocket, you'll really notice it while it's sitting there on the front. So I think I will have it on the left side, because I have the zipper on the right, so I have the pocket on the left. Yeah, and I haven't even eaten lunch yet. I've done all of this before lunch, so I'm gonna go finish all the little, like, putting on buttons, also a buttonhole on this, put on a button, and then it's time to work out the little coin purse. Oh. There we go. Oh. Oh yeah, I think I'll have it sitting up about there. So cool! This is gonna be awesome. Alrighty, so I have just used these little pliers to cut the strap off. I cut out a little pattern piece. I'm gonna press all the edges in, and then I'm gonna stitch this to my skirt on a mannequin, and hopefully be able to hand stitch this on as the pocket. Let's try it. It is not going to work to sew on this mannequin. I'm going to have to take it off and sew it flat. I can't get it flat enough because this is not body shaped to sew it on. So I'm just going to take it off. Ow! Ow! Juvie is so staticky. Don't come near me.
Ladies, I made my decision. The time has come to crown our queen.
Good morning, everybody. It's day 3. I was supposed to be working today and was supposed to be wearing these clothes to work, but because I ended up with an extra day, I decided to just wait and stitch on the pocket of the kiss clasp skirt this morning. So I have stitched it all onto the clasp and it's on the machine, so I'll show you what it looks like now. So there is the waistband and the clasp sewn on. So I sewed it onto the clasp, sewed it on the skirt first, sewed this onto the clasp, and then have pinned this to the fabric, and I'm just going to top stitch it on. So I think that's going to be the easiest way. I'm sure there's a better way I could have done this, but that is how I ended up doing it. And I'm going to go ahead and stitch that on it. You guys, it's done! Look at it! Look at it! It is so cute. This is exactly how I had imagined, how I dreamed doing this skirt. I've been wanting to do this for so long. I used a very special, I collect vintage buttons and things. This is a beautiful mother of pearl, like hand carved button. Oh my gosh, I love it so much. Now I know you're gonna ask, is that gonna stab you when you sit down? The answer is no. I have already tested it out. So, here's my sewing chair. See? And I can even lean over, sit up. Doesn't bother me at all. I can't even feel it on. Oh, where's my phone? I'm gonna do the do a phone test. I'm gonna see if I can, oh my gosh, my pocket. I am obsessed. I love this so much. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. So it is not super well attached to the clasp, I don't think. Obviously the weight's gonna be held by the top stitching onto the skirt. Sure, there's a better way of doing this, but oh my gosh, I love it so much. Ah! Okay, I'm gonna go get my phone and, you know, slide it in, see if it fits. Oh, I get my hand in there. Ah! Oh gosh, I love it. Okay. All right, so grab my phone and do the phone test. See if we can get the phone in and out. Oh, look at that. Oh my gosh, I love it. I love it so much. Oh, it's trying not to scream in your ear. Oh, I love it. I love the length. Length is perfect. I was a little bit worried. I like things a little bit longer usually. And then the little gathers in the back. Oh, I'm obsessed with this skirt. I want to make a gazillion of these. I want you all to have them. Oh, oh, oh. And the socks. Socks are pretty good too. They've got roller skates on them. Oh. So this skirt is by far my very favorite thing that I have ever made. I adore it. I could not be happier. I want to make a million of them so that everybody can have one. I'm obsessed. So if you enjoyed learning a little bit about Bonnie Cashin, if you want to see more about her, let me know. I can post a designer profile all about her. But number one thing I recommend is this book. Chic is Where You Find It by Stephanie Lake. It has so many pictures. It is really thorough. I mean, you just need to learn about her story. Go listen to the Dress podcast with the interview with Stephanie Lake, and check out her Instagram page, which I think is Bonnie Cashin Archive. I will put a picture of it here and I will link it in the description. Those are your two best resources if you're interested in learning about Bonnie Cashin, and I really appreciate you joining me. I really love sharing stories about incredible women of the past. I find her story really inspiring and motivating, and I hope you did too. So I hope you'll join me in my next video. Happy YouTubing. I'll see you next time. Bye!